All right, in this episode, we are installing the top deck. Pretty big milestone. Before we start applying epoxy, I really roughed up the tops of all the bulkheads, free of epoxy from sealing, free of two-part foam little bits that are remnants. Just check your contours and make sure that your top deck sits flush and contours the way that you want it to. The slope down to the edges of the sponsons, etc. I paid extra attention to making sure I laid epoxy down consistently here so that there's no small gaps. I really don't want water getting into the sponsons. TBD if I'm going to put a drain plug in yet or not. I probably will. And so I really took my time in making sure I, laid out that epoxy the right way. What's not shown here, I did seal, obviously, the bottom of the top deck. Let that cook. That is still wet while I'm applying this. So I did that first. And making sure all your sides are clean. And again, I would just stress, because this is such a monumental part of the build aesthetically and functionally in terms of strength, just make sure all your edges line up perfectly on that. Yeah, and I marked that bulkhead where the radio box starts. I marked really in between. That's like a 1/8 thickness bulkhead, like 1/16 right in the middle. I marked it so I knew right exactly where I wanted my top deck to start, and then I worked forward, clamping the middle section here first, after the rear, and then working towards the sponson. I would stress, like, have a game plan. Definitely do a dry fit up first. And so I even, I took a picture of what my clamping and taping would look like. And I wanted to make sure that I replicated that once the epoxy is wet. Installing these PVC clamps, making sure I install them right directly over the bulkhead so I don't get any bowing or warping on the top deck itself. And as I continue through the deck, you'll see in a minute, looking at the taping, just really trying to get a nice uniform squeeze on the decking everywhere around. Yeah, this tape is great. Stucco tape. It's drywall tape. It holds tight, and it comes off very easily. Great tip by my friend Dave there. Thanks a lot, Dave. Alright, I sanded down the grooves for the 1/4-inch basswood. I've got this ruler and like a bunch of other things like this scrap piece to really make sure that the basswood is seated fully. I found that if I just put weights down, there's just variability in the gap where these could pop up, like to really make sure these are fully seated. I'm using this little trick. So Alright, so I have the radio deck on. I have the long basswood strips on. I don't have the short ones on yet. I did the basswood strips last night because in those grooves. I did have to sand and file those grooves in bulkheads 4 and 5 and 6 to make them accept the basswood strips at a level that's equal with the the whole deck. And so the thing, number one, remember that I didn't seal the basswood strips undersides before gluing them in. So I did that. I had the bent, where is it? I had a bent brush and just did the underside. And then I sealed the underside of the decking. One thing just to remember, first I did the seal, I think I have a video I showed you. So I did the perimeter of the radio deck, and then I was like about to apply the epoxy on the whole width of the basswood, but obviously you want the radio tray sitting on there, so I wiped that off as a reminder. Don't just goober up the basswood strips, because that's again where the radio tray cover is going to sit. And that's it. Weight. This is keeping everything nice and level. You want this glued on nice and level. I've got clips to make sure the strips are being upheld to the underside of the decking. I'm going to file everything down. And then I've got a binder clip right here and here, right here and here, and right here and here to help keep those strips up on the underside of the decking. All right. I think that's all about I have to say for that. I've been doing a lot of sanding. This is like it's sand central over here now. Things are looking pretty good. I'm generally happy with it. This is lesson on the doublers on the bat wings. I did add a very small triangle strip sandwich between the doublers. I did sand this edge. You could take it two ways. I decided to sand this, any excess remaining that came out. You could measure and smooth up this underside edge and this underside edge first, so it glues nice and flush. I don't know if there's a better way, which way is better, but yeah. Again, just doing a lot of. I've got like 80 to 90% of the sanding on the edges done. I've not done anything on the top. But yeah, it's starting to look like a boat. I put in the shorter basswood. This is like, I would be careful on these because these little Harbor Freight clamps, like, well, I was trying to mess with the cowl with this tail. It was interfering with one of these clamps. And so I said, okay, well, I'll go to the binder clips. Well, the binder clips, because there's an overhang, the binder clips want to shift and tilt the basswood strip. So that really didn't work. So I'm like, I had to raise the white flag and surrender and just let this cook while and put the cowling on hold. What I did do was, this is a translucent red acrylic, and my radio box is going to be, this is going to be my radio box cover. It's going to match the red of the boat, and then I'm planning on using, I think I'm planning on using this. I may do another red on this. I'm not really sure what's going to be in here. Because I'm planning on putting both servos. This might be, I'm not sure if it'll run. I think I'm going to put the radio battery in here, but to put another hole in to have it run over here, if I need to pull weight back, I may do that. I'm not really sure. So that's it for this. And let's see, what other updates do I have? No, I don't have any other updates. I'm starting to attack the cowl. I'm starting to do like a very iterative process of trimming, measuring. I started blasting the hole for, this is a 29, so I think this hole is going to be a little bit bigger, I think. And then I've got the G10 that came with the kit, this little piece. So I'm planning on doing the lip with this. And then, I ordered, because I didn't know what else, I just ordered these magnets. These are from Blazer, and I have to say, I'm excited about these because these have like a built-in, like if coordinates X, Y, and Z, these have a built-in X, Y constraint. And so the only way, like, you know how these magnets, they can slide, the only way that these can dislodge is it's coming straight up, and it's strong. So I'm excited about that. I haven't quite figured out how I'm going to do that, but that's a little preview. I have full faith in those, but again, I have zero experience, so we'll see. All right. Yeah, in planning for this part, I had to configure all these blocks, my 1, 2, 3 blocks, to kind of follow the contour of the plane of this back part, while still getting like uniform coverage. So that was, do some planning on your part to make sure that fits okay. Also, just check for like corners that might be like, I'm having to favor this side a little bit because this one corner is kind of like bowed up a little bit, but everything else looks good. So we're gonna let this cook. And my jig is wider than the boat. I don't know if your jig is the same. If you're doing the stock jig, I think it is. I don't really know. I had a hard time clamping this, like clamping these pieces down, which is why I'm using weight, because I can't get a clamp in. So that's why I'm choosing that. I think in Brian's pictures, somehow he had a way of, like, I wanted to make sure what was critical to me in this step was making sure the boat cured on a very flat surface. So I didn't want to have any overhang where the flat surface could be jeopardized, so that's why I chose to do the weight. So I wanted to share that because that was a decision that I made. I think it's the right, I think you can go either way, but again, I didn't come up with a creative way of clamping and still having a flat surface. So that's what I did.